So let's have a quick reminder of what we learned yesterday. So if I have this number, 49.73, I have 4 tens, 9 ones, 7 tenths, and 3 hundredths. So I have 4 tens, which is the same as 40, 9 ones, which is the same as 9, 7 tenths, which is the same as 0.7, and 3 hundredths, which was 0.03. If I added all those up, I would get 49.73. Things for us to remember is partly the link to the fractions. So if I have 0.04, that is, in the 4 is in the hundredths column. So it is the same as 4 hundredths. If I have 0.7, that 7 is in the tenths column, so that's the same as 7 tenths. If I have 0.65, I look at the last column. So the last column here is hundredths. So I have hundredths, and I have 65 hundredths. Just wrote that wrong. 65 hundredths. A few more than like that. If I've got 0.63, my last digit is 3 is in the hundredths column, so that's the same as 63 hundredths. If I have 0.4, my last digit is in the tenths column there, so that is 4 tenths. We're going to think about the next value here though. So we know that we have ones, tenths, hundredths, and next we would have thousandths, getting even smaller. Okay, if we're writing letters, little t, little h, and thousandth is little th. We very rarely get even smaller than that, because in the real world we don't use very rarely use any measurements that are smaller than that, smaller than 1,000, smaller than 3 decimal places, unless we're scientists developing stuff that's tiny. So let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at another number. So I have 0.761. Here I have 7 tenths, 6 hundredths, and 1 thousandth. Because the thousandths is the last column here that my number is in, I can say I have 761 thousandths. If I have 0.842, my last digit is in the thousandths, so I have 842 thousandths. A bit tricky with the next one. If I've got 0.046, let's look at the places. My last digit is in the thousandths. I wouldn't say I have 0.46 thousandths or 46 thousandths. There's no digits before those zeros, so these zeros don't really matter too much. So I know it's in the thousandths, and I know I've got 46. That'll be 46 thousandths. You might get a question like, write 7 thousandths as a decimal. In which case, do yourself place value chart. 7 thousandths, I have 7 in the thousandths and nothing in anywhere else. I have 37 thousandths. Remember that the last digit is going to be in our thousandths. Start at the back, Have I got anything else to put in there? No, I haven't. So that would be 37 thousandths. And 37 thousandths is the same as 300ths and 1,000th. We can also think about number lines as well. So if I have a number line here, let's think about where these digits would go. So if I have 0 and 1, if I'm thinking of tenths, if I've got something like 0.5, I know that's going to go right in the middle. If I imagine that it's 0 and if I imagine it's 0 and 10, 5 would go in the middle. It's 0 and 1 this time, so 0.5 would go in the middle. What about 0.6? It'll be a little bit further up from 0.5. But what would be in between here? So that would be 0.55, halfway between 0.5 and 0.6. If I look even closer, so let's imagine a number line with 0.5 there, 0.6 there. What would be in the middle of that? 0.55. So it's 5 tenths and 5 hundredths. Okay. That's it. What's the next number there? That'll be 0.56, 0.57, 0.58, 0.59, 0.6. If I think what's in between there, 0.555, 0.556, 0.557, 0.558, 0.559, and so on. Think about it like meters and centimeters and millimeters. Talking of which, we can relate this to real life. If I had a ruler, a meter ruler, and I can say that's 1 meter, I know 1 meter is 100 centimeters. So someone might ask me, what fraction is 40 centimeters of a meter? Well, think about wholes and parts. So my whole is 100, my part is 40. So I'd say 40 hundredths, which is the same as 4 tenths. If I get even smaller and look at millimeters, I know that 1 meter, because a millimeter is 10 times smaller, is 1,000. There are 1,000 millimeters in a meter. So if I had around about here, so I had 123 millimeters, which is the same as 12 and a bit centimeters. I've drawn my line on the wrong place a bit there. What fraction would that be of a meter? Well, my whole is 1,000. My part is 123. What fraction is it of meter? 123 thousandths. What proportion is it? 0.123 meters.